Okay, so we're just gonna do just a quick conversation here just to get things going. So the idea, well, I mean, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and the most important thing to have in a world so corrupted as this one, so much disinformation, is just someone who's willing to be honest, someone who's willing to tell the truth, but also to like blend their mind and just add themselves to the conversation because we all should be, right? We should all be talking to another, expressing ourselves honestly and without condemnation. It should be a free exchange of ideas. I don't know exactly when it was that that became like such a revolutionary idea, or even just a strange one. It should be just how everything is by default. But so yeah, so there's a lot that we could talk about, and there's a lot to cover. But um, it's always best just to start with something concrete and just to go from there. That's the best way to do things. So yeah, a lot of things going on. So there's illegitimate leaders. There is a lot of deep state uh, background activity. There's a lot of things going on. There's obviously things happening with the government, things happening in the world. That's one layer of the game. Another layer of the game is that, well, we're living in a simulation, right? But I mean, words are useful to the point where they no longer are practical or are accurate, but they have application, right? So, what do we mean when we say simulation? We mean fake. We mean it's contrived, it's constructed, that um, it isn't real. But if you think about what that means, a simulation is by definition not real. And so, what we're saying is that whatever we think is happening here, whatever we think is now, that something else is going on, and that you can participate with this layer of truth as though it's real, or you can participate on this layer of reality, or this layer of a dream, or of a simulation, or of a compartmentalized mind, as though it is just exactly that, just a dream, just a just a just another place for your mind to visit, another place where you have an aspect of identity. So let's talk about specific things that are happening right now. So yeah, the Biden entity, whatever that is, it's either played by a number of characters, actors, some holograms probably. Some people, like if you go to like Project Camelot, they talk about, and they're not the only ones who talk about this, but they talk about cloning technology. um, there's a guy named Gene Decode. He's really great. I enjoy his mind. He talks about cloning. There's okay. So here's the most important thing. Whether you believe, whether you believe that the president is the president, or that Trump is who he is, or that there is a fight between patriots and deep state factions, and that there's a cabal versus good guys. Whatever you think is happening, ultimately it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, because all we can do is just suss at the details. All we can do is just kind of like piece together what we have access to, and then use our own discernment, use our own judgment. And that's the key to everything. It's just recognizing the power of your mind, recognizing the part that you have to play and how everything works, and that you can't continue to participate in the world as though somehow the world is apart from you, or that um, or, or 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 living your life or going about your daily existence as though you are not an active participant in the creation of this reality, because your ignorance has been used against you. So it's time for you to start to to build a skill set, to have an ability to um, use your mind, your awareness, your consciousness in a way that you actively participate with the creation of this world, rather than simply being a slave, a passive participant, a member of the audience, right? Because there is no such thing as the audience. Everyone is responsible for what's happening. Everyone has a part to play. Um, and you're never absolved from that. There's never a moment where anything that you're experiencing or anything you're seeing isn't somehow created, at least in part, by you. And the idea is that whatever it is you think you are, it isn't just this. It isn't someone who just is in a body. It isn't just someone who has a name tag. It isn't just someone with a social security number. It isn't just someone who is just living this one life, or even just this one example of a world. Because there's other worlds, and you're in other bodies, and so for any of that to be true, or all of that to be true, then the idea of who you are has to become much more expansive, right? The idea is, instead of thinking of yourself as just a leaf on a branch on a tree, begin to think of yourself as the tree, with many branches, and on each branch many leaves, and that this one particular instance of you is just but one of many leaves. And that's a much better way to understand it. Of course, it forces you to, if you want to, you don't have to, of course, but it implies that if you're going to begin to see yourself as a component of a larger whole, as a leaf compared to the entire tree, that um, your mind will just naturally start to rebuild itself, reorganize information, and start to give you new insights as to how to go about interacting and living in this current instance, in this current world, in a way that's far more beneficial. You'll stop being as much as a slave, and you'll be um, a lot more awake, a lot more aware. So we're just doing just a couple tests here, just trying to get this up and running. Honestly, it's just a weird thing. I think we all just need a friend, right? We all just need someone who's willing to be honest. So I'm just willing to be honest. Um, a lot of really interesting things happening with the Arizona election. A lot of really interesting things happening with what's actions in the military. Interesting things happening with what's happening with uh, the various diseases and their treatments. And not to we're just kind of like doing like an introduction, just trying to get the ball rolling here, just get into a process of just posting. So I will say this: if there's one takeaway uh, that one can have just taking a look at what's happening in the world right now, is that we are right now in the process of evolution. We are at the precipice of moving beyond this current understanding of ourselves. It's a leap on the scale of a magnitude that it would be like a lungfish. The very first, like if we were going to go with the tale that somehow, we come from the oceans, and from the oceans from there, uh, on an evolutionary scale, right? We then began. One of our ancestors had the ability to then breathe air, oxygen, from the air, not just from the water. That at that point we had the ability to leave the water and go into another realm, right? To the surface without water. Um, and how cathartic that was, and how much of a leap that was, and how different an experience in the world that was, right? To move from a liquid environment to an environment of gaseous environment. And that's basically where we are as far um, as a species, right? So we're moving beyond the idea of just simply being an individual to being a networked consciousness, but that also there's an evolution happening for the planet as well. Sounds very new agey, right? Sounds very uh, metaphysical. Sure, I guess. I don't really I don't really subscribe to any of that. I just look for the truth. I just look for what resonates, piece together the puzzle, the matrix, look for insights. Um, I just see what sticks. I play with the ideas, and then from there, I kind of like fashion out and hammer the metal of various thoughts and concepts into something that takes shape that makes sense. Battery exhausted. That's funny. Okay, so